Good afternoon. My name is Annette Goski. I'm the Director of Prevention here at the Workers' Compensation Board, and I'll be presenting on some high-level information regarding our past 3-year strategy, as well as give an overview of some of the resources that are available through the Prevention Department, as well as through our WorkSafe website. Next slide, Gabe. So in December of 2019, we unveiled a 3-year strategy that focused on areas that caused the majority of the fatalities and serious injuries in the province. This strategy ran from 2019 to 2021, and the document outlined a lot of initiatives that were to be completed in each of those 3 years. So WorkSafe challenged its traditional approach to reducing injuries in the province through the development of this strategy. There was a focus on many complex issues that were causing these type of injuries and fatalities in the province. However, work had begun on the data analysis a few years before the strategy was even launched. We had noticed that injury rate reductions were beginning to flatten. We weren't seeing the level of decreases in the provincial injury rates in the current years as we had currently seen historically. And it was around this time that our focus started to shift to those claims that were longer term in nature and more costly to the system. And the conversation did shift to serious injuries and what did that look like? So we started discussing serious injuries with our own internal department here at the WCB and the other departments here. As well, we started discussing it at the table with our WCB partners in prevention across the country. And we asked them what definitions were they using to define a serious injury in their organization. Once we had done the internal and the external scans on the definitions and what others were using, we developed our own set of criteria to define what a serious injury is in the province. We overlaid that data onto our data. We overlaid that definition onto our data, and we took a look at the last 10 years and noted that there remained a consistent number of serious injuries that we were accepting into the board as claims. And on average, that number was around 2,400 serious injuries every year. And that number was not declining. It was a pretty stable number. We also looked at the number of fatalities over the last 10 years, and there were 379 fatalities in the province of Saskatchewan, 379 workers who did not go home to their families after a day of work. Pretty sad statistic. So in 2019, we launched our fatalities and serious injury strategy. And in the history of WorkSafe, we had never really launched such a public document before. We not only put the strategy up on the website, but we also put an update every 6 months to highlight the work that was done within that strategy. That strategy looked at 4 areas of focus for fatalities. They were asbestos exposures, motor vehicle crashes, firefighter cancers, and falls from heights. We did further analysis on the statistics, and we looked at the costs and the number of serious injuries that were entering the system again and again. The number of serious injuries is a low number. They really only make up 13% of the total number of claims that we accept at the WCB, but they do make up approximately 80% of the cost to the system. We also included in our strategy document the goals and objectives that we'd hope to achieve through the implementation of some of the initiatives as outlined in the document. We also worked within the prevention department to create a process where we could go out and help employers to investigate those serious injuries and get to root cause and facilitate that conversation with them. Our goal is and still was and still is to follow up with all employers that have a serious injury and have that conversation and help them move forward in injury reduction. We also continue to work with employers to put corrective action plans in place that will help to prevent a reoccurrence of the serious events. Along with the 4 areas of focus for fatalities, the data analysis also pointed us to 4 other areas of focus for serious injuries. So those 4 other areas included healthcare, transportation. We focused on first responders and specifically the psychological or the mental health claims for first responders that we saw coming into the board. On average, a first responder claim is approximately 20 days longer than an average mental health claim that we were seeing coming into the board due to the traumatic events that they experience on a day-to-day basis in their work. And we also focused on manufacturing, and the focus for us in that industry was on the hand injuries. The entire report that encompasses the 3 years of work, as I said, is posted on the WorkSafe website. And this slide really reflects the results that we achieved over the 3-year strategy. And it does reflect the results in the 8 areas of focus within the strategy. And I'm not going to go over it in detail, but one of the things that I do want to point out is that we did see reductions in all areas of the strategy based on our objectives, except for the healthcare sector. And I think the important thing for us is that while we may not have hit all our targets in some of the areas, we did see reductions. And I'm very proud of the work that has been done by the entire WorkSafe team that made this possible. Everybody had a part to play in moving towards the results that we see here in the charts. As well, very proud of the employers and the partnerships that helped to move this strategy along. So everybody in the province who helped to move this marker. Some of these results were straight from our data, and some were from surveys that took place in order to get some of these results, such as improved awareness under the asbestos exposure piece. Within the strategy, we focused on 5 pillars. Those pillars included awareness, education, training, partnerships, and inspections. I'm going to move and speak to some of the things around some of the specific campaigns that we developed, but it's not all that was accomplished in the last 3 years. We did go and develop several campaigns that focused on some of the most complex topics to bring them to the forefront. We wanted to start creating that awareness, but every campaign that we developed has actionable steps for people to take and back to their workplaces to implement. Every campaign that we did links back to our work site for resources that were built and added to the site to coincide to the campaign. So not just creating awareness, but again, giving something tangible to workers and employers to use to move forward with some of those initiatives back in their workplace. With the asbestos campaign, we wanted to build awareness around the risks. We wanted to educate, and we wanted to promote the resources that we put on the website. We created resources such as an asbestos abatement guide, an online e-course that helps individuals recognize and manage asbestos-related risks. And we created safe work procedures for conducting asbestos surveys and sampling. Slips, Trips, and Falls is a newer campaign that we developed. They are one of the leading causes of injuries in Saskatchewan, as well as one of the top leading causes of serious injuries in the province. A Take Safer Steps campaign was launched to bring awareness to the slips, trips, and falls that happen in our province every year. Again, we developed resources that we put on the website. Some of those resources included information around ladder safety. We created posters, there's fact sheets, and our partners in injury prevention, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, also created 3 videos on safe work practices around falls that we put on our website. Know Your Rights was created to ensure that all employers or all workers know their rights in the workplace. This time around, we created a few videos on the 3 rights, as well as a video that had encompassed all 3 rights in one video. We made these videos to make sure that the 3 rights were understood by all, but also memorable to anybody who saw them. Information was added to the website, and each one was explained in more detail. And there is a mini quiz at the bottom of each page of each one of these rights. And it's just a quick way to test the understanding of the individuals once they read or watch the videos. There are also links put on the website to various resources around these topics as well. A motor vehicle collision campaign was one of our earlier campaigns that we worked on earlier on in the strategy. And the objective of this campaign was to educate the public on the hazards of driving, specifically on gravel roads, and to provide some tips to help drivers safely navigate Saskatchewan roads. Along with the campaign, resources were put on the website that focused on pre-trip inspections, journey management, and distracted driving. So really resources that any employer could use when developing their safe journey management processes within their businesses. A big focus in the strategy was on psychological health and safety. These injuries do continue to rise across the province, and this does continue to be an emerging issue, and one that has been accelerated due to the pandemic. We had a previous 3-year psychological health and safety strategy in place in the province, and that had run its course. And we knew we had to take some more steps in order to provide something to the province of Saskatchewan, the employers and the workers, to move forward in this area. As this slide indicates, these claims are costly claims, and they have risen from 174 in 2017 to 238 in 2021, and they do continue to rise. When we analyzed these numbers and we saw the need for psychological resources for the province, we knew that internally at WorkSafe, we did not have the expertise to create these resources or to educate or help employers and workers on what was needed to have a psychologically safe workplace. So we entered into a 3-year partnership with Dr. Jody Samra, who's a renowned psychologist and works out of BC. And our first kickoff meeting with Dr. Samra took place, I believe, in March of 2020, and COVID hit shortly after that. So we knew we had to accelerate some of the work that was in her proposal. And that first step was to create a website of resources that can now be found on our WorkSafe website. The resources on the website do have a heavy focus on the 13 psychological factors that are outlined in the CSA National Standard for Psychological Health and Safety. And Dr. Samra created each factor and resources around each of those factors. So she defined each of those factors. She explained what does this look like in a good organization. There are videos attached to each one of those factors. There's action plan templates, there's questions and answers, and there's tips for where to start with each one. We also developed with Dr. Samra's help a return to work resource on mental health claims and a roadmap that outlines the steps an employer can take to implement psychological health and safety into their workplace. And along with Dr. Samra's, along with the Resource Center, we do have online courses offered for free through the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety that are focused on mental health, as well as a certificate program offered through the University of Fredericton. In addition to the resources on the WorkSafe website, a separate website was launched by WorkSafe specifically to address the needs of first responders. This was launched in 2019 with the goal to give public service personnel quick access to some tools that can quickly help them to locate resources in the province for mental health. The website contains assessment tools that, when filled out, will indicate where you are on a mental health continuum. So the continuum goes from a healthy green to a red, which indicates to seek consultation as quickly as possible. And wherever you land on that continuum, we have pointed resources on the website that align with the results of the assessment. So making it easier for people to access those resources that they need, depending on where they end up from their assessment. As you recall from my earlier slides, firefighter cancers was one of the top areas of focus for fatalities. In January of this year, we launched 25 videos that demonstrate safe work practices and procedures that fire halls can take to reduce the exposure to cancer-causing substances. A partnership was created with a firefighter consultant who had the expertise to do this for us. As again, we looked internally, and WorkSafe did not have the expertise to deal with this issue. So we went into partnership with a firefighter consultant. Along with the videos, we also created resources and information for fire halls on actionable steps that they can take to reduce exposure. And we also included resources focused on providing information on raising awareness specifically to firefighters specifically for firefighters around the skin cancer piece. In November of last year, we launched our very first community of practice, and this is focused solely and marketed solely to the members who have signed on to the Health and Safety Leadership Charter. The community of practice is focused on mental health, and again, as I said, is really targeted to those leaders who can drive the changes needed in their organizations, and make the commitment to putting those actions in place in their organizations. The Community of Practice is a monthly interactive newsletter that goes out to all signatories and indicates and includes a different topic every month with links to resources. It has participatory activities as well as tips for implementation and links to blog articles. It does take only 15 minutes a month. We kept it simple, fast, and easy to do. And it also asks for feedback and themes and issues. And we take that information and make some of that the focus of the next newsletter that we send out the next month. WorkSafe has taken on the work of the charter signatories, and I just wanted to put this in here as a reminder that when you go back to your organizations, and if you're talking to your leader in your organization, to let them know to save the date. We will be hosting our first meeting for the charter signatories on June 15th, and this will be an in-person meeting, and more details will come as we finalize the details of this event. So in our last strategy development, we had engaged our stakeholders. Once we pretty much had the strategy formulated, we had gone through the stakeholder engagement process and got feedback on the document that we had created. This time around, we are engaging our stakeholders upfront to help drive our initiatives. And with that input and feedback from the stakeholder engagement meetings, we're drafting up our next strategy document. We've seen industries and themes emerge as areas of focus. And this is evident not only from the statistics, as well as from the conversations from the various stakeholder groups that we've met with. Results of the first strategy did see a reduction in serious injuries from 2018 to 2020 by almost 10%. However, the injuries still continue to happen. And we did still see a little over 2,300 serious injuries at the end of 2020. So much work still to be done in the province to eliminate and reduce that number. The prevention unit has restructured to be industry portfolio aligned. So every rate code has a team assigned to learn to their industry. And this is so the team can really learn about the industry that they are overseeing and what are the unique issues that each industry faces in health and safety, and how can we help that industry move forward in preventing injuries. WorkSafe will work closely with employers and industry as we work through our new strategy once it's developed. And as I mentioned before, the prevention team had started working with employers on investigations of serious injuries to root cause, and we continue that process. And later on this year, we will work on the proactive piece with employers, and that is to help them conduct effective hazard assessments within their organizations and put effective controls in place in order to reduce and eliminate the likelihood of a serious injury occurring or reoccurring. So we have lots of resources at your disposal, and we're out there for any employer to phone us, and they can call us through that employer resource center that Gabe had shown in her slides, as well as utilize our resources on the WorkSafe website. Thank you.